The first point worth noting is the fact that at the beginning of the song, you have a dialogue between Kendrick Lamar and I think a girlfriend or a wife who's telling him that he needs to go to therapy, right? And Kendrick in the song seems to be the father who's experienced generational trauma from his own father. And instead of accepting the wounds that the wife girlfriend is bringing up, he says, no, I don't need real therapy. I don't need any of that.
You're stupid. Everyone's stupid, he says.
Exactly. You're stupid. Everyone's stupid. I don't need therapy. You know, in other words, I don't deal with my wounds. Mm-hmm. And this is deep characteristics, I think, of many relationships, particularly the male figure. When his flaws are brought up, he wants to deny it.
Yeah.
He doesn't need help. I can do it myself.
Yeah. I
don't need to be vulnerable. That's not what's healing. What's healing, actually, is for me to put my boots on and go work.
Yeah.
You know. So, I think it's off the bat. That's kind of one of the characteristics here of a flawed characteristic of fatherhood that brings that opens up at the beginning of the song is we deny our wounds.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I think earlier, that on the front of the album cover, Kendrick is holding his own child.
Yeah.
Right, so he's experiencing exactly...
Well, Kendrick's girlfriend or wife is holding their child.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
He's experiencing, though, it seems to be, like you said, this generational cycle that perpetuates itself. When I'm hurt by my father, I end up hurting my son.
Yeah.
Right, and... he's denying, like you said, the woundedness that his father inflicted upon him. But then throughout the rest of the song, he seems to start grappling with it, right? Which is probably a good step in the right direction for Kendrick.
I want to bring up kind of a more broad definition of what fatherhood is, right? So at the very beginning of the song, you have this kind of characteristic of fatherhood come about. Mm-hmm. But one philosopher defines fatherhood this way, and I thought it was important regarding this point.
Yeah.
To be a father, then, is not simply to be a transcendent source, but to generously communicate the substance of one's own life in openness to another. The essence of fatherhood is love understood as self-surrender or a total gift of self in openness to another. Right? So at the very beginning of the song, you have a closing of fatherhood. Right? A denial of the wounds. Doesn't want to communicate himself.
A refusal to open myself.
Correct. Whereas here we're talking about fatherhood, positively speaking, he should open himself so as to be gift, so as to be sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the essence, I think, of fatherhood, is to teach others how to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. We'll talk about the priestly fatherhood in a way that's a very similar dimension. But anyway, I thought it was worth bringing out.
That's true. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. But then, after in that kind of part of the song starts before the main beat gets going, right? It's kind of this conversation, this muffled conversation that takes place at the beginning, and then the song gets going. And right out the gate, he says, "I got daddy issues. That's on me."
Yeah, that's like a common theme in the song too,
which is so interesting, right? Because I have daddy issues, and what does he say? That's not on my dad. It's on me.
Yeah.
So already, because he's been wounded by whatever way his father treated him, he has internalized that as shame, as guilt, as I'm not good enough. I did something wrong. I must have done something wrong to merit the way my father treated me. And I think that is a common experience of people who have been hurt by their father figure, by any of their parents, but I think especially the father, as we've mentioned, the role of the father is so fundamental to reality itself, that when the father harms us, those wounds can cut so deeply that we can attribute them to our own identity. I am worthy of having been wounded, right? I
deserve that.
I deserve that, right? Like, he's right. And Kendrick seems to be wrestling with that concept here by saying, I got daddy issues and that's on me.
The next line, right? Second stanza, everything them four walls had taught me, his home, right? Made habits buried deep. Mm-hmm. Right. So his house became the place where he learned to bury himself. Again, instead of developing the fatherhood that's essential to him, he started burying it deeper within him. And then he says, I think another line worth pointing out, that man knew a lot, but not enough to keep me past them streets. Mm-hmm. So there's, I think, a distinction between kind of practical street knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
My life is a plot twisted from directions that I can't see. All of a sudden, his vision of reality, everything is just like, he doesn't know what to do. So naturally, a child who doesn't have exposure to the world or have much development of the rational capacity, he's going to sink into himself. It's going to to have difficulty with relationships, I think, naturally.
Yeah, I think you're right. And related to that quote from the philosopher that you just read a couple seconds ago, one of the things I want to bring out throughout the course of our analysis of this song is this concept of affirmation. So Conrad Bars, he's this great psychologist, wrote a couple books called Born Only Once. That's an incredible book, short little book. I highly recommend it to anybody who is alive. And also he's written some other ones. Feeling and Healing Your Emotions is another really good one that he wrote.
But it's a book on affirmation itself.
Yeah, I think, and Born Only Once is about affirmation.
Okay, maybe this is it.
And basically, to affirm someone is to really, it's really to rejoice in the existence of the other as other, right? To say, like, you are good because you are, not because you've done anything to deserve my love or earn my love. It's like, I'm looking at you and just rejoicing in the fact that you exist. When a father does that to a child, it literally gives life to the child. Now, one of the roles of a father, obviously, is to teach a child how to endure adversity, how to endure hardship, how to suffer well, and to overcome trials. But if a father is going to do that effectively in a way that's not going to wound their child, he needs to do that from a more fundamental position of affirmation. The child needs to know that if his dad is being hard on him, or if his dad is encouraging him to fight through something that's difficult, it's because his dad loves him. And even if he fails, the dad is still going to love him, that he's not doing this to earn the father's love, but that he is loved, and therefore he is going to endure. I think we're going to see throughout this song, Kendrick's father trying to do that second part, trying to teach his son how to endure hardships, how to sacrifice, how to suffer, but without that more very fundamental aspect of affirmation, of loving him for who he is, for what he is, without making him earn any of that love.
Yeah. I think that's one of the deep tendencies in men generally.
Yeah.
To try to be tough, right?
Right.
And to try to be tough means almost being inhumane.
Yeah.
Whereas, again, even the definition of fatherhood is to embrace humanity. When Ratzinger, right, talks about it, he goes, we need to learn, this is one of the fundamental problems, crises to humanity.
Yeah.
Right? Is to reclaim that aspect of directionality and vulnerability.
So this next stanza, Kendrick says, daddy issues, ball across my head. He told me, forget a foul. He didn't say forget, but that's what I'm saying. I'm teary-eyed, want to throw my hands. I won't think out loud. So he's like, I'm hurt. I'm in pain. I want to give up, but I'm not going to express that because I'm scared of what dad's going to say.
Yeah.
And then he continues a little bit later on. Daddy issues made me learn losses. I don't take those well. Mama said that boy is exhausted. He said, go F yourself. So like Kendrick is exhausted. He's hurt. He's been beat up or in some respect. And the mother, as the mothers often do, looks at her son and says to the father, he's exhausted. Like,
give him some water.
Give him a break.
Yeah.
And the dad says, go bleep yourself, which is a terrible thing for a man to say to his wife.
Yeah. Well, I think that reaction, what it does, and I know psychologists talk about this a lot, so I'll leave that up to them. But one of the things I think worth pointing out is that the dad in this instance is teaching the kid what? Right? By the dad talking to both the son and the mother in this way, the dad is teaching the kid that authority can be dismissed, that you treat women in this way, and also that you treat your mother this way in the future as well.
Right.
So it's like there's a lot of things breaking down here. Authority is being questioned, relationships are being questioned, and respect to his mother.
Yeah, and you can see the good intention of Kendrick's father, right? So Kendrick goes on to say that the dad says to the mom, if he gives up now, that's going to cost him because life is hard.
Yeah.
And so this is the dad trying to teach Kendrick, like, no, you need to learn how to suffer. You need to learn how to go through adversity. I'm not going to help you at all. Which, again, as I mentioned, is in the proper context, that is the role of a father to teach a son how to do, or to teach a daughter how to do, right? Like, life is difficult, and you need to learn how to endure. However, if that's not coming from, like I said, that fundamental place of love and affirmation, then what's going to happen is the child is going to feel like, I need to, unless I do this, my father won't love me, that I need to earn his love. And that strikes a deep, deep wound. And it obscures the image of the Heavenly Father, who does not require of anything of us in order to love us. He loves us into existence. He loves us because we are, and not because we have done anything for him. There's nothing we can do for God in order to earn his love. And so when our human fathers behave in this way by even in their good intentions of trying to toughen us up if that's necessary, but they do it without that fundamental love, then problems arise. Then we get daddy issues.
Yeah. Something I maybe should have mentioned at the beginning too. One of the things that happened after original sin is that we all have a tendency to not know how to control our passions.
Right.
Right. And so we all, to some extent, struggle with this capacity to teach others about life.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be some give and take, with this whole dynamic, because I hate to say it, but it's almost a default position of man. But with grace, that changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
With grace, we're able to see the face of God more and to react to that vision. So anyways, I think that there's a little caveat I wanted to mention here.